green, green. Thank you. Shaw, buddy, what are you doing?
Brenton, because the drivers being lapped, they have their own duty, but it's not a case of move out of my way, I'm a fastest car. It's more a case of if you are consistent, if you carry on racing your line, then it's okay. If you're going to weave around the track and do something different to me every time I pass you, then that's when it becomes an issue. As they go 3 wide down in towards turn number 1.
Yeah, well, I reckon actually Tourmaline and Lenderman actually had contact there, certainly on my screen. But you're right, it can be seen as clumsy, and the BMW, it's a pretty small tennis racket here. I think the McLaren MP412C is certainly the favoured GT3 car quite heavily, to be honest with you. They've got the massive numbers, but this BMW, if he stays consistent, he's only being lapped once. They're going to be lapped multiple times, and hopefully as time goes on, he's going to be right, holding his line and let the faster cars work their way around. They'll find their way around. It's a long endurance race. If they have to be held up for 2-3 corners, well, so be it, so long as they can get through cleanly.
As we see that, a look down at your Pro Strap division will get yourselves at the bottom of your screen. There you go, top 8 in the Pro Strap class. It's Deco, Vortex Sim Racing leading the way right now in Command Sim Sport by about a second. Then Core Motorsports, and then the Petronas Racing Team, Relicos Online, PRT, Apex Racing, and Team GT. For some reason, in the top 8 of the prototype division, we'll move on, shall we? And then we've got ourselves in GT, we've got ourselves Crossmaster, Advanced Sim Racing, as to the outside. We'll go Marcus Lenderman. Will he get himself the race lead? Well, they are very close in traffic right now. Alex Racing in second, PRT in third. Shark Motorsports in fourth, CTS, of course, with Shane Van Gisbergen behind the wheel, Virgil Racing, Aftermath, and then PRT-112 are your GT4 right now. And when all was said and done, it was not himself to race lead, because we go on board of him, Oscar, and he's still stuck behind that driver of Julian Ali.
Yeah, he got ever so slightly held up in the previous lap, and it meant that coming towards turn 1, the Vortex car had cleared all of this, GT pack of 7 or 8 cars, whereas unfortunately for Marcus Lenderman, he was still behind them going into the twisty bit where you can't really do very much. So this is going to be an element of the ebb and flow to this endurance race and to every endurance race. When the faster class gets up behind the GTs, it's all about measuring the aggression. And you're going to have laps where you get caught out and you lose 5, maybe even 6 seconds to people that just get level up with the traffic. But it is an ebb and flow, and Marcus Lenderman, the whole of the Co-Anderson Sport team, they're going to know that. They're going to know that just because they're losing time now doesn't mean that they're going to lose net time by the end of the race, and they're just going to keep a cool head, take the time through the traffic. That's what I've seen Marcus doing, and in doing so, he's not making that contact, he's not running the risk of damaging his car. That's the way that you run, and that's the way that you win in an endurance event.
And that's
what... And the significant thing here, Will, sorry to cut in, is that right at the moment, all the GT3 cars are really crammed together, aren't they? There's not a lot of spacing in between them. As the race goes on, they'll slowly progress, they'll slowly space out, so it'll make it easier for these guys to pass. But right at the moment, with these GT3 cars so battling so close, these guys are in their own race. There's time to be lost, time to be gained already. They want to make sure they get through safely, but as it stands now, it's pretty tough for the quick guys to get through.
For those of you who may have missed the iRacing 24 Hours of Daytona, don't worry, never fear, iRacing is here to help. There will be another session that will kick off at 15:30 GMT. Of course, we can't broadcast that race as well, because otherwise it would be amazing, but there is another opportunity for people who have not had the opportunity to run the first official Daytona to do so over the course of the next 26 or so hours. And Cam, we get into that point that we have to reveal the wall and talk about the fact that iRacing is an online platform, and yes, everyone wants to get up themselves in the morning in the US, or get themselves up nice and early in the UK, or late in the evening in Asia, and it is very hard to schedule teams and drivers. This is the question I want to ask you. What is 2 hours in terms of team dynamic and getting that car to the end of the event?
Well, overall, it's just getting yourself set. Of course, you're going to need coordination. I I saw multiple people just looking for teammates in the closing stages of the run-up to the Daytona 24, and perhaps maybe they'll have success in the event, but ultimately though, having not just a group of friends, but you need a real international car of people of all sorts of different time zones to make absolutely everybody comfortable. I think actually the crew that we have here, the 4 people here, would pretty much cover the entirety of the Daytona 24 time zone. This would be a cracking crew we got here. But ultimately, though, it's just setting yourselves set for success here. And it's not just racing, as Zoe, the commentary dog, she'll try to squeak her toy. But ultimately, though, it's just trying to figure out what exactly you're looking for. Do you want to get up front? Do you want to lead from the front? As the Gecko Vortex car took quite a couple of laps here, but he's managed to get that lead over the Coanda car, mostly through not just GT traffic, but he's just cycling through and he's absolutely pushing that car. He's running well into the 138s as the Coanda car, while overall faster, hasn't been as aggressive through the traffic. And so he's just trying to push up that gap. The Coanda car doesn't even have draft anymore. Ultimately, though, just setting yourselves up or hanging back, like I believe some of the GT cars are doing right now. They're just waiting for things to cycle through, maybe get a couple of pit stops in, and start seeing where the strategy leads you.
There's hanging back and then being caught up in other people's incidents. And yes, we are at Daytona and it's not NASCAR, but still, sometimes we hang back. What will happen is we lose time, and that is the most important factor of this fantastic event here on Racing TV, streaming live on iRacing Live. We will talk to a number of drivers over the course of this event. Currently looking at Shane Gisbergen, P2 in the GT division, and ahead of them is PJ Sturgis. And let's be honest here, there's no one in a GT car, or no one on iRacing who is more versatile than PJ Sturgis. This guy is running an NASCAR Peak Energy Series in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, and we expect him to run in also the Blancpain.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, PJ Sturgis, we see him in all sorts of different series, and I almost have to ask myself, is that the same person? It always is. He pilots these cars, all sorts of different cars. He puts in the time to learn the laps, and you can just see the gap right now. His car has gotten quite a gap over the CTS car of Shane Gisbergen, as PJ Sturgis in that INEX racing car. I think INEX might have 2 GT cars, I might be wrong. There are actually quite a few teams here that have multiple cars, which is lovely to see. I saw the Raptors prototype pass the Raptors GT car. But overall, I think this whole field, both GT and prototype field, it's just an absolute, for the most part, star-studded field.
Yeah, and you want to know something fascinating? If you want to, what you do, you head over to TV full of prototyping, and we will promise to provide it for you. Over the course of the next 24 hours, the INEX Racing continues to run second ahead of the CTS car on the same track right now. They're currently fast behind the prototype. Down in the pack, we've had ourselves some interesting battles so far. We're going to have a quick tour for the owner, driver of the Aftermath number 08 machine there. That's Aftermath Racing. Welcome to the 24 Hours of Daytona. There's some Timmy Hill behind the wheel car right now in what we think is one of those new paintings of the weekend. Timmy, not Timmy, EJ, talk to you.
We have Timmy Hill starting off here right now. Obviously, the race is 24 hours long, and we don't want to push it too early and end up in a in a mishap and end up wrecking the car. But this Aftermath Motorsports, Gary Mercer Trucking, Ascore's car looks very good. The McLaren, Trey Edson did a great job painting it, and we'll see what it looks like after 24 hours.
Indeed so, and right now it looks though that it is good front and rear, but what's your biggest worry in this 24-hour event? Is it competitors? Is it strategy? Is it the decent prototype drivers getting involved in this?
I'm just worried about the other guys not paying attention and not realizing it's a 24-hour race. the other guys on the server. I have confidence in my teammates, Timmy Hill, Adam Gill, and Trey Edson, and I feel like just hitting your mark, trying to minimize off tracks, minimize the spins. Of course, there's no reset, so can't just hit restart and start from the beginning again. This is one and done. So just minimizing the mistakes you do at the end of 24 hours.
Well, the zero machine is carrying on Kilo 7 in the GT division. Before we let you go,
I just want to thank Trey Edson for painting this awesome McLaren. Brennan and Gary Mercer, Brian Schoenberg from Ascors recently. Let's see, I want to say hello to our teammates, Timmy Hill, Adam Gillett, Trey Edson. And on the second team, GT Blue, on Aftermath, David Comstock, Justin Fuller, Sean Brightsman, Tyler Hill, and Rick.
to you as well. Currently sat P number 7 in the GT division. Timmy Hill behind the wheel on that machine as we have completed half hour of the second annual 24 Hours of Daytona. We've got ourselves pit stops coming up soon. We've got ourselves inflows, getting some from marshmallows. We'll be back after these messages and we'll take you
Sorry, it was so early braking. I was just surprised. Sorry for that.
Racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of free-flowing. Interestingly, iRacing faced the same problem in its early years. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was fun, but there was always a certain level of chaos and danger until some folks came along and put some order to it. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sims. Sure, they've got the most accurate tracks and realistic cars out there, but that's just the start. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you always place the races where the competition competition will be tight. And that means reckless drivers who ruin it for us all are kept in the pits. Not to mention that with over 45,000 active members already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in on the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out the
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the second annual 24 Hours of Daytona here on Racing TV, streaming live on iRacing Live. Live timing and scoring is available. Head over to timing.racebot.tv to catch that one out. And well, we're talking in the break here, Brenton, about drivers that's had an early mishap to this event.
Yeah, the car 5 looks like it's jumped over scratchracing.com. Yeah, the BMW down into last position's lengthy pit stop. Not sure I can see anything wrong with the car directly, but looks like at the moment they've called it a day. But like I said before, the BMW, it's, tell you what, would be the last car I want to drive around here. It's not going to be massively competitive, but by saying that, it's less competitive when you're sitting there doing nothing.
Indeed, we're going to ride on board then with the VRS client what's going. Here's one thing that's happened over the course of the last couple of laps or so. They've fallen back to 3.8 seconds behind the they've fallen back to 4 seconds behind Julian Aligo in that number 10 machine, and that is an important factor to count. If you're going to ride a lap on board Planet Import, of course, one of our partners, still 4 seconds is a huge deficit, only 20 minutes, or so 40 minutes into this event.
Well, as they cross the start-finish line down again to the turn number 1 here, it's one of those things where you got to kind of look at it here. It's 3.7 at the line. I think what had happened was that Gecko car was just the Gecko Vortex sim racing car was just way more aggressive through the traffic and perhaps was a little bit more lucky than the BRS Koyan, the SimSport prototype, as clears the international hairpin. He'll actually clears the first hairpin. I believe this one's their international hairpin. As he'll take that long right-hander and get on the throttle. But overall, Marcus Lunderman there, definitely loser going through that GT field. And, well, 3.7 seconds of traffic. It's not something you can just really work down. I think overall the lap times Marcus Lunderman is faster, but only by 0.6 of a second. It's going to take a lot of laps, and well, we do have a lot of laps to go to make up that deficit. But boy, it's according to me, we've got at least 23 hours and 20 minutes to go. So you know, we do have plenty of time, but at 0.6 of a second, it is still going to take a massive effort to make that gap back up.
And as it stands right now, Rolex at Daytona runner-up. Stephen Wilson, a 2-time Indy Lights winner and a 4-time British F3 race winner, along with AJ Foyt the 4th, who of course has run in the Rolex 24 Hours and the 2002 Indy Lights champion. Joe Branch, who does a number of great projects here, and of course we know the 2016 iRacing.com 24 hours, sorry, not say that again, the iRacing.com 16G Racing League Indianapolis 500, just 3 weeks ago, Michael Peter, who is the 2015 and so forth. So, that's
sorry to cut in, Anthony Rosselli has just spun from 4th in the Red Bulls Online C7R. That's dropping back a absolute mile. I think that was another blocking of the rears, potentially going into turn 1. Seems to avoid the damage there.
It's going to be something that we'll talk about over the course of this event, especially with Marvel.
Yeah, absolutely. But fairly recently, looking into dynamic track, you now have this situation where certain bits of the track have lots of grip, and then the other ones have a little less. And it's not just a case of being on a low grip surface, moving from high grip to low grip. That's what affects the balance of the car, and that's what can throw the cars around. And again, it was probably just a case of running maybe 1 to 2 meters wide wider than normal on the braking going into turn 1. You can see he was just collecting the rear as many times. He luckily went off onto the grass and avoided getting it.
So yeah, don't forget the 24 hours of extension. I advise you to check out the 2016 Indy 500 champion AJ Football. So, as we just had a look there at Ratio Racing number 2 machine, trying to get down to the inside and falling back in position just a little bit. Of course, Ratio Racing are never discounted. They could be first, be 10th. They could wreck the first hour, they could well be winning the 24-hour race. But Ratio Racing team are a very dynamic bunch, and they are always. Oh! As Joey Lotari goes off there.
Yes, he does. Let that back up and get that brand ready to go here. He was quite in traffic. The Gecko Vortex car sitting by the Pure Racing team. Daytona prototype having to slip by with the CTC Racing black car piloted by Guillermo Fetier in the back as we looked just to step out a little bit. I was looking actually as Joey Lotari will now take down on the backstretch at the stable of Glacier Racing cars. Normally we could possibly see 2 cars in the event, but they've all banded together for one. It's Chiari Lotari, Giusio Haitala, Miko Nidiani, Joni Backman, Joni Hagner, and Kim Erickson. So
that's
overall,
so easy to see, isn't it?
That's the easy. You get through all the really hard names. That one's the easier one. But overall, it's just the stable of drivers that they have in this car. I'm not sure they're going to have enough time over a 24-hour event to really get the most out of these drivers. But I expect that car to be a fast, competitive car. Right now, they are sitting back in 7th position, just 14 seconds off of the lead. And I believe that gap was mostly due to getting through that GT traffic. Once that GT pack and the prototype pack met, it was really, it was probably the worst spot on track. It was right through the infield is when they all met each other, and boy, that caused issues. No dramas, I do have to say, which I'm very happy to see. That could have very easily ended a couple of good cars' races. But overall, though, it just cost these prototypes a couple of times, and I think we'll have to work that out through strategy and pit stops, which should be very exciting to see.
You know one thing that I'm missing in this race, Cam? What?
Yes, we're missing. But we have Shark. We have a Shark, though.
We have a Shark.
We have a Shark in the GT car. No Flam, which is unfortunate.
No Bessie, no.
No Bessie, no. Heavens, we do have a prototype pulling into pit lane. It is the TBKLight.com Team A car, as they're pulling in for their pit stop. As I believe they are, I'm not sure if that's service. It looks like it's just standard service. The car's gone up. They've put some new Continental tires on that car. They're going to fill it up with the fuel that goes in, and he'll get out the throttle and scorch the tires as he pulls away here. So already perhaps going into the pit cycle starting is the TBK Light.
We've got a lot of cars on pit road, actually. A lot of cars, including, I believe, that is a Vortex Sim Racing car on pit road as we speak. We'll talk about TBK Light in a moment's time. We've got ourselves
both leaders.
Julian Aligo on pit road. We've got ourselves also Marcus Landerman on pit road then. Let's get ourselves our pit lane camera up and show you what will happen next. Because this is a very interesting thing. These drivers are going to do 45-minute stints in P1 and P2 at least. Aligo, a long pit stop for him. You also himself Marcus Landerman on pit road. We know, Aligo, look at that, he's come out early. That was only a 22-second stop. Aligo wants the clean air here, Brenton.
Yeah, probably not the worst thing in the world. Let's have a look at this. There's multiple cars going in at the same time, so if it separates you from having the pit stops at the same time as everybody else, and there's talk that these guys won't be changing tyres due to the cold temperatures on them. I know Commander were talking about running 2, maybe even 3 stints on these tyres, and we haven't actually gone through the weather, like 26-degree track temperatures. Certainly not cold as it has been, but I can tell you right now, Core Motorsports have definitely taken new tyres on because they're slip sliding all over the place. So I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know Celsius. Sorry, Cam. Yeah, so the cars that take new tyres, just be careful of them, especially with the faster GT3 cars around them as they come out with the warm tyres.
As we're running aboard of Phoenix Endurance's Jonathan Boutel, who basically we have to give him coordinates in relation to Le Mans, otherwise he will not know what he's doing. We talked to Jonathan Boutel over the course of this broadcast, and of course one of the biggest personalities on the iRacing. So if you have a look there, we've got ourselves Tom van der Voort on pit road right now. PRT DP1 on a pit road. Jamie Fluke also on pit road in the Apex Racing UK AC car, right behind some very special gantry stuff. And then Tony Ripsard also on pit road as well in the TBKLight.com Team B car. I have to say, Team B Light is fantastic as a website. If you want to get yourself up to date with all the motorsports, head over to it now. I'm not sure I remember where I am, but carry on, someone.
Well, I just wanted to say the paint scheme on the TBK Light Team B car, that is, of course, it's a simply lovely paint scheme, but it's the Action Express paint scheme. In spirit, I think there's some obvious differences, but overall, though, that car, which was in position for when it came out, of course, they skipped the pit stall. They'll actually come out right, I was going to say next to the CTC cars. But ultimately, though, it's they'll come out Apex Racing and the other car coming out with Trinity Motorsports and the Team GTC7. So overall, though, they'll fall back to position 15 and 14. But some beautiful paint schemes on these Daytona prototype cars.
Outlet pit stops. Is that one driver? 5.7 seconds ahead. That is the get-go. Vortex Sim Racing hashtag #1 machine of Julian Oligo in that 10 car, heading himself down into the woods. Big box stop, heading himself out of the bus, going to ride on board of him for a lap. Brenton, that's huge. 5.6 seconds after 50 minutes of racing.
Patience behind the GT3 cars will so be it. I do have to say we'll just have information that iRacing had a bit of a setback in that a lot of teams weren't able to join this race here tonight amongst the many splits, and as a result they are putting a second race on to believe that starts in about 30 minutes. So for those who couldn't get in, there is another race for you guys to have the opportunity to race for 24 hours.
Doing their job to ensure that everyone can get themselves in to a 24-hour endurance racing. We'll talk about this, we'll talk about strategies and everything in a couple of hours time. We'll get bored essentially. But here we've got ourselves no one really has division. And Oscar, this is where things get very interesting. We have the endurance and the we have this on the GT and the prototype divisions on different chassis. At some point, they will come into contact on pit road, and that is when fireworks often fly.
Oh yeah, it's going to be, every element of it becomes tricky. There are some things that you can practice coming into an endurance race. Being on pit road, entering pit road, exiting pit road with the other class in bulk isn't something you practice. That is something where these drivers, it's one of those situations where you hear a commentator talking about a driver burning when as it were. That is one of those situations where it's all about how you react to it, and reacting calmly and properly. And yeah, you're quite right. You're guaranteed at some point you have 20 cars on pit road, different classes, all trying to go in and leave at the same time. And someone's going to come off badly. Worst case scenario, someone gets turned around on the pit exit, which is only a car wide anyway, and you have a backup, people lose time, people get damaged, and it goes downhill rather than quicker.
Oh, look at me! Treble one machine. He's got some GT field. Of course, Shane Van Gee, they started race league. He themselves up with
favourite, even if they're not in the time of the favourites or have quite the same strength of the team. It's an endurance race. This is the opportunity for people to make a name for themselves, to end up in the top 3 when maybe they shouldn't on any other day. And it won't just be CCS, there are a number of teams out there that will be pining for that kind of result. Another interesting thing you said there, they're a solely Australasian team. I always feel sorry for these teams where they're made up of people all from the same part of the world. Because it's a 24-hour race, which means that some poor bloke in that team is going to have to do the graveyard shift at silly o'clock in the morning with no one wants to do with the Australians. That's right now. So, right now, right at the end. So that's really tricky to have the tricky stints at the beginning and the end of the race for a team. So if they can continue on this form and get a good result by the end, I think they've got to be opening it because they are in a tricky position with their team lineup and of course maybe not even being favourites.
Well, we've got Pepsi and Monster. Are they good?
Yeah, yes, they got a championship winning team, Red Bull Racing Australia Championship. Craig Mountain, the big news here is actually Craig Gisbergen in fact actually just did a announcement and an unveiling only last week in his car 97. He's also joined that team, so he will be with Red Bull Racing Australia, which is they didn't win the championship. They won the team championship, but they didn't win the drivers' championship. Did that. But I would say overall that the Red Bull car is probably, I would say yes, it is the strongest and certainly most competitive team in the V8 supercars.
Indeed so, and of course, well, they're not many months away from starting their series. Of course, we got ourselves plenty of action, including the iRacing V8 Supercar Series, which of course lives here on Racesport TV. We are just a couple of months away from kicking things off in the iRacing.com World Championship Series 2016. Racesport TV is your official home of the NASCAR Heat Series, the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, and also the Blancpain GT World Endurance Championship as well. So that is 3 World Championship Series that lives here on Racesport TV. All races streaming live, also on iRacing Live, as it's going to be a fantastic year, not only for us on Racesport TV, Oscar, but for sim racing, because, well, it's getting bigger, it's getting better, and we've talked about, you know, the quote-unquote other broadcasters, other sim racing series for many years, but to have a coordinated effort by a company like iRacing will only improve things for years.
Yeah, it's something that, in regards to sim racing, you know, our hobby, it's a hobby that everyone in the broadcast booth and watching shares. We've wanted it to have this competitive profile for a long time. And to be fair to people that have tried to do that on their own and run their own broadcast privately in the past, you know, those are the people that pioneered it. We should never speak lesser of the people that started broadcasting and did it on a smaller scale, because without those people, the concept of broadcast wouldn't even exist for us. But now to have people like iRacing.com actually backing these broadcasts, you know, putting some funding into it, putting a lot more effort and research into how the broadcast is done and what the broadcasts are covering. It's that provides anything, any simulation or gaming title that wants to be shown competitively. That's what gives it its profile, and it's what we're seeing now. You know, the viewership numbers go up all the time on these iRacing broadcasts. It's always getting stronger and stronger, and it's all moving in the right direction. I don't think people might have, you know, one thing that they don't like about a broadcast, this, that, or the other. It's not quite perfect, and it might not be quite perfect just yet, but it's all moving in the right direction. Everything is becoming more proper, more people are hearing about sim racing. It's such a good time to be a sim racer.
We're on board and tournament as the GT field making their first pit stop for the first time. Sergio Rocket Jr. was also, of course, see him 1 minute and 8-second pit stop for him. Kisco Nagura is also out as well in 67.5 seconds. 19 Motorsports and tournament will be out in 43 seconds for the time being. He'll be out in about 20 seconds time. There's one thing here as well, interesting camp. It's dark here at Daytona, and that means these drivers, when they come towards the pit road, there's the little things that they have to get themselves accustomed to.
Well, your normal visual cues, you know, maybe something behind the Armco barrier that we have here at Daytona. a little visual marker, a little something that you are so accustomed to seeing isn't there or is occluded by shadows of the darkness, and ultimately you're just going to have to figure out your visual cues, find some new ones, which isn't easy to do, which is why I'm sure most, if not all of these cars have been practicing all throughout the week, really, and the last 2 weeks to get this down pat, so everyone is just a bleeding edge of speed, I think we have here. But it's just one of those things where you could almost lose yourself just because you don't have that background lighting to really show you the way.
Mario Bonatore in the Frostmaster Movano Racing GT machine is going to lose the race lead to iNext Racing, and also Shane Van Gisbergen is going to lose that race lead to iNext Racing as well. We go on board then with Shane Van G, and we can see he's down in a call P5. That's because there's 3 drivers who haven't yet pitted. But Shane Van G has lost himself the race lead for the time being to PJ Sturgios in the number 9 iNext Racing car. The reason why, well, I'm not quite sure here then, Oscar, because Shane Van G was short on the pit stops and his in-lap, I think, was about comparable. But iNext Racing's PJ Sturgios now leads this motor race in the GT division.
It's always a tricky one to view. You can see people pull off identical pit stops and not see anything different, but you've got to remember pit entry and exit and how often people gain seconds on doing those differently and optimizing them. And I know iNext fairly well as a team, and I'm pretty sure that their pit entries and exits will be something they will have considered. They're quite meticulous with the endurance racing and extremely experienced with it. And
Timo Ugini, drills that into them.
Yeah, like finding those extra seconds where they're available in a relatively risk-free way, getting good at pit entry and exit. That's the kind of thing that really separates a great endurance racing team from a good one. And that's why iNext are a great endurance racing team. It's why they've got, I think it's 3 cars into the Blancpain GT series that's coming. Like, no one else has really managed that, and they turned up with 3 cars and they were all towards the top of the standings. There is a reason that coming into this, looking at the GT field, that you would go, iNext are pretty much the favourite, and it's because that they frequently perform consistently and quickly in these kinds of events, and that's exactly what we're expecting from them today.
But the light is going on pit road in the Gap SRT machine. We've had ourselves a couple of roundabouts going on. We're going to have a look at one right now. PRT, Michael Schulbach going 3 wide in towards turn number 1 then, as the PRT car has got himself a bit of a battle going on with the driver of Lucas Zizza right there in the GT Temple Racing team, and also I believe a lap down car as well. And you're completely right here, Oscar, because we think about, racing, yeah, 24 hours, great. What we do is go and make sure we hit our marks every single lap, but actually it is that in-lap and that out-lap that defines racing.
Yeah, and it's not just endurance racing. We speak in terms of endurance racing today because it's what's going on. But in any race in which there is a pit stop, I mean, you can even talk, if anything, you could talk about the oval stuff. The green flag pit stops in oval, there's even more to be gained. Because those are tricky cars to speed up and slow down, and it's very important in the way in which you do it. So you see it more there, but it applies to every race where there's a pit stop. Because on the track, these guys, they all hit the braking point, they all hit their apexes, and that's fine. Coming into pit lane, it seems to turn it into a different animal, and suddenly these people that can hit an apex every corner of every lap for 3 hours straight, they screw up, they lock a wheel, they're too conservative with the way that they do it, and someone that's practiced it, someone that knows how to do that entry and exit, suddenly gain 3 seconds on them, and it throws their race into disarray.
As we see, Petronas Racing Team, Dan Schultz are currently in P5. Alexander Voss just ahead of them. You know what, Cam, already, without me even realising, we're out into this.
Oh, just like that, it's winked away. We are congratulations, guys. We have made it exactly 1/24th of the way through the motor race here as the Team GT C7 car, the prototype piloted by Diego Community, is under attack by Dirk Reinhardt of the Trinity Motorsports car. We've noticed we've had a shark. Well, we also have a polar bear in that number 60 prototype piloted by Dirk Reinhardt. I believe, I know we've seen this scheme before, guys. Was it last year in a GT car, perhaps, or somewhere. I know I've seen this before, but now the polar bears. Neo, perhaps.
No, not in this car. It's going to be in a.
Well, of course, that would be. Yeah, that would be a little banned. That would be a little unfair. As the Neo Endurance Series, well, actually, it wouldn't if it was an LMP car. But ultimately,
it's a
though,
Corvette, so it wouldn't get out because it's a completely different car too.
it's significantly different, yes. So that polar bear now is, it's grown up a little bit, and now it's a little bit faster than that shark. Because I know the shark and the polar bear have fought each other before. I remember these strange types of livery instances. So no, they're doing good, but he's pouring behind another car that I don't normally see in prototype cars, which is fantastic to see, is the Team GT car. I think I'm seeing a lot of teams here tonight where they're in prototype cars when they normally aren't, which I think is fantastic, and pushing the envelopes rather than sitting what you're comfortable with for these big time events.
Indeed, so as currently Trinity Motorsports is 8 tenths, 9 tenths of a second behind. They messed up. Over Team GT, and that is a gap that we'll be talking about all race long. 10th, 2 tenths, 3 tenths could be the difference in every single corner before being here on the podium at the end of 24 hours or being out of the race. And that's a crazy situation because when we have over 700 laps and we're expecting these guys to talk about 10th of a second, that is when things you start thinking, oh, wait, this really is a tough race.
It's the toughest, isn't it? It's a tenth here, a tenth there. You take a tenth of a lap each lap for 700 laps. Yeah, you're in a different part of the world, aren't you? Really, and that's what these guys probably will be straining for. Not yet, they're still settling in. There's been a couple of disconnects, unfortunately, that I've noticed. So cars are losing laps unnecessarily there. But it does add up, like you said, and what you would give to have that extra tenth. But there's been quite a lot of setup work done with the cars this week. I know a lot of them are running absolutely minimum wing on the C7s down to the P6. Oh, I know some cars are trying to get to P7 to try and save their rear tyres as well. But these cars are C7s. They only take 76 litres, so they're pitting every 45 minutes. So it's not something that we are used to here at Daytona. Normally the cars go a lot longer, and the GT3s can go longer, obviously, but it just adds that much more, doesn't it?
It does indeed. We've done Shooter in the number 5, in the number 12 Petronas Racing Team car. Cool Motorsports of Alexander Voss just ahead of him as we are into the second hour then, ladies and gentlemen, of the 24 Hours of Daytona on Motorsport TV on iRacing Live. Well, not much has happened in the first hour of this race, but at the same time, there's been a little bit that has. You can see that on the top of the screen, sorry, bottom of the screen right now, we have ourselves what is the timing and scoring standings. Gento, Vortex Sim Racing leads by 4 seconds over Finance Imports. At one point, that gap was 6 seconds. That has come down, and that will be interesting to note over the course of the next couple of hours. iRacing.HU Endurance C17 are currently in third. Fourth place is Cool Motorsports. You can see the rest of the top 8 on the prototype screen right now. If you have a look back to the GT division, they are embroiled in a fantastic battle in certain points of their field. The top 8 in GT, it starts with PRT, and then iRacing Racing. With them is CTS, and then is Virgin Racing, Crossmaster, Moonshine, PRT, and Shark Motorsports. And one thing, Brenton, that came out of the first hour, that GT division is not getting separated at all.
No, it's not. We've got the Shane Van Gisbergen and a quality team behind him. It's not just the Shane Van Gisbergen show. As we said before, we've got some quality drivers, Lee Holsworth, Justin Rougier, and Christian Aylward, a good bunch of Aussies there, let me tell you. But the Rough's not the favoured car here, so as hard as they drive, and they will go as hard as they can throughout, they're not going to get really that clear of a car that is superior around here, the McLaren MP4. We saw it in the Grand Prix Endurance Series qualifying for the Pro Series. The McLaren was just a deadbeat dog at tracks like Silverstone and Bridge and Brands Hatch. It was a shocker. But then all of a sudden they took him to Monza, and how good was it at Monza? It was just a different beast altogether, and that's really what the Van Gisbergen car is up against right now. And yeah, it just shows the quality of quality of driver that Shane is. That he can actually get this job done, and at the moment stick their nose in front.
PJ Sturgis is ahead of him as we have a look then from PJ Sturgis' car as he heads himself out of the International Horseshoe down into what I call his second hairpin in that number 9 iRacing racing machine. And you see in the Ferris wheel in the background as well as he heads himself straight onto the banking for the first time. We'll see the flames explode. We'll go back to Shane Van Gien and we'll have him come board. Those flames can light a marshmallow and probably a steak on it. But that's vicious as they come down in towards turn number 7 on the racetrack. There's some flames. You can see that iRacing Racing's car. It is literally Marshmallow City, as we like to call it. And here's an interesting thing here, Cam. We only have, after an hour, 2 drivers out of the race.
Yeah,
so
Cam.
that's-
Oh, sorry, but Cam.
I'm sorry. That's no. I forgot to say it back. That's on me. So that's the Cracks Racing car as well as another one are both out in the GT fields, which is a good thing to see. Well, of course, you hate to see anybody's race end, but this is a race and a difficult one at that. Even though the track itself might not be that difficult, except for perhaps the infield. It's just one of those things where we have a lot of traffic, we have a lot of speed differences, especially on the infield. On the backstretch, not so much. But ultimately, though, I think we had a very clean start, and I think these drivers are getting ready and get set for the long haul of a 23-hour race now.
Indeed, so we've got ourselves 24 MSP drivers dash home. One machine of Philip Schonenberg there, scrapping out with Gisbergen as they head themselves through turn number 1, through turn number 2 in camp. I hate that corner. You all hate that corner. We all hate that corner.
Which corner?
Turn number 1.
Turn number 1, it's not that horrible of a corner. It's a good overtaking corner. It's just really tricky. If you cut yourself out too far, you'll start getting on that concrete run off to the right, and once you start going over there, the tires just slip over the concrete. It's not like, say, Watkins Glen, where the concrete there really helps with the car and really picks up that rubber, so it'll run on later. It's an offline patch of concrete, so it's very different material. After the race has been going on, so you catch yourself out there, you'll start touching the grass on the right side. That'll send you out, and the speeds that you have will carry you into the Armco barrier. It's almost easier to abort turn number 1 if you know you're going to pooch it, and just go to the right, to a giant loop.
Indeed, so turn number 1 is one of those things that if you hit the tie barriers or the Armco barrier, it's game over. But there are other ways to survive that. You know what, actually, Brenton, that corner reminds me a little bit of the final corner at Gisbergen. There's 100 million different ways to the corner, but only a handful are fast.
Yeah, well, that's right. And there's tracks that have that. The Suzuka S's here. How do you take that? And like you said with the Sebring and also that corner, there's different ways people take it. So you can lose significant time, especially over a 24-hour race. You can gain significant time, and we've also got to look after the car as well. So yeah, you're right. It reminds me very much of that Sebring corner as well.
As Oscar, we are into that second hour. 22 hours, 47 minutes and 50 seconds remaining. It's a huge number, but still, no one's made a drive change yet that we are aware of. But for most of these drivers, it would be 4 hours.
Paul made a drive change. I think that may be one of the reasons that they lost some time in pit stops, because they went from having, I'm going to get this wrong, aren't I? Niels Kong in the car. Yeah, there we are. Got there eventually, and they currently have Alexander Vost in the car. Yeah. So Core Motorsports did make a change, and I think that's why they lost a bundle of time positions in the pit stop.
Exactly.
Currently sitting, currently sitting 4th. So I say lost a lot of time. They lost a whole 1 position, and just behind them, Jan Schwitter for Petronas Racing Team holding station in 5th.
As Alexander Vost is still in P4 Oscar. The the amount of drivers you have, the rotation that you have, could well be a determining factor in this event.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always something that you sit there and you can quite easily in your head map out how it would work with a certain number of drivers. So 3 drivers, each driver does 8 hours and you know, do a certain number of stints, this, that and the other, and you can do that for 4 or 5 or 6 drivers. There will come a point where every car in this race will have something not quite fit their spreadsheets or their plan, and it will be thrown away and they'll have to start again and think about what to do next. So it's always tricky to say. It's one of the reasons why I like and can get on with endurance racing and, you know, doing the commentary or the racing aspect of it, is that with lots of other races, say a 90-minute F1 race or something like that, the strategies are very set and very little is going to play about with those strategies, whereas in an endurance race, I would say after the first 3 or 4 hours it becomes very much a fluid process for everyone, where nothing is set in stone and it's all about making the right decisions at the right time. And to an extent there's an element of luck. You need to be in the right place, you need to catch the traffic at the right time and so on and so forth, but being able to be a dynamic team and be able to make good fluid decisions is a big part of endurance racing, a big part of what makes endurance racing exciting.
I completely agree. And one thing that we need to note as well is that this is a 24-hour race that will be tried and it will come down at some point, Caps. Are they in the right place at the right time?
Yes, it's overall, we're all trying to have plans or strategies where you're going to work out your times for your drivers, and speeds for your drivers, and trying to click all that into place is well and perfect. But as soon as you make contact with all the other drivers, I don't mean literally, we'll ignore those are accidents, but once, as I believe the Movano racing team just, oh no, they had to go well wide to allow quick 10 car. Never mind, I thought they might have spun it, but they did not. Overall though, once all those things start clicking and meet with the competition, it's just, it becomes very difficult to try and plan and operate accordingly to get the best out of your car and the best out of your crew. There might be stages where the GT field is backed up and you might have a prototype driver in the car who's quick but not necessarily experienced in GT traffic. Alternatively, you might have people who are not the fastest, per se, very quick. Nobody's going to be slow here at the top split. But you just have wide open space, so it's very difficult to predict these things. And it's the response of the team manager or the whoever taking that mantle. I've had to do that on occasion. Well, it's certainly not GT cars, but it's cars that do race here, Will. It's the Trump Car Series. I've crewed for them, but it's just keeping track of all those things. I honestly would keep a notebook for an event like this.
I have no notebook right now. It's just scribbles because there's so much going on right now. On board with James Rutter, the control machine, as they try and they've got themselves Alexander Boston just ahead of them. This is about P4, P5 in the internal division. And well, it Costa. At some point, these guys are going to get separated. But what do you do if you drive? That is
I would immediately say, don't panic. Have a team around you that go, it's not an issue. You've lost the drive. You might get it back, you might not. Keep running your race. The minute that something like that happens and you try to react to it, that's when you're running the race screwed. And again, we talk about it all the time, and it's going to be such a broken record with all the commentators and people that are interviewed today. This is a 24-hour event, so reacting to stuff, trying to overdrive is the last thing you want to do, because you can think about the win, you can think about a result, but if you stack it into a wall 1 hour and 30 minutes into the race, I mean, there's no point thinking about that. You're going to be stuck in the pit lane for 4 minutes because game, set, match, you're not going to be at the front of the end. So, particularly at this stage, if you lose the draft and something goes a bit wrong for not too long, it's a case of just gathering your thoughts and continuing on. A bit like we saw Radical towards the time earlier with their spin, but there was no damage there. That's not a damning statement on their race. They can still come back from that.
That worked out pretty well.
If they've been pushing and stacked it into a wall, then it's game over. Even an hour and 20 minutes in, if you lose 4 minutes, I'm not going to put money on you finding them back, because this race is so competitive that it's about consistently doing reasonably quick times. That's what every team has got to try and drill into their drivers.
Well, Dana Vortex Racing have pulled out of the time of 9.8 seconds over VRS runs to return to an advantage over iRacing's Hungary in almost towards the fourth and 5 then in GT, PRT lead the way by then seems to get
I'll try and jump in on that one. Unfortunately, wasn't paying as much attention.
I think you never listen to what I say.
No, I never do. You know, it's something else. But yes, I think the same about what happens going on at the moment. And I think that's one of the biggest things that happens during this race is to be embroiled in, shall we say, pretty tough car-to-car combat this early on. Because it's a racing driver, you're going to want to pass them. You're going to want to race them hard, you're going to want to pass them. It's what everyone is, the mindset you have. You know, beaten into us by people that push you out of the way until you start pushing back and, you know, trying to win races. But then, like you say, it's about a team effort. You need to have something there, sort of, I don't know, singing lullabies, doing something relaxing, just saying, don't worry about it. If the opportunity presents itself, make the pass. But otherwise, it kind of isn't so bad. It's not a bad idea. You know, they've got, how long is it? 22 and a half hours or so of this race to go. You don't want to go throwing stuff at the inside now. You don't want to go risking it. If I was in this position, as I see a ball go side by side with iRacing's got HU, and it looks like actually they're going to get the move done. We're saying earlier in the race, the ball looked like they're struggling with straight line speed. They've just gone straight around the outside. It's that kind of move where you can get the entire pass done before you're on the brakes. That's the kind of move you want to go for. The one where you've got to do the pass on the brakes, because that's when you're risking stuff. And every race is risky before, but there's very little reward for our endurance race for risking the stage.
It's interesting to note that actually for some teams that they make fast and they think, well, we do that whole principle until we get ourselves to that might make themselves pass over pit stops. We have no idea what we have. Say that again. Hey, Ryan, that's what? Hi, how are you?
Hello, Will. That'd be better. Yeah, we're doing okay. Jamie's convinced that I've just gone out because I'm jumping in next. Decent start. Jamie stayed to bus stop. Just working my way through the field. David's done a good job. He's consistently doing good times. That's all that matters really for us. We just want to finish.
It's always a tough race. It's going to be Danko, or it's going to be a case of, okay, let me get through this bit and then potentially move on afterwards.
Well, for me, out of the guys in the team, I'm the slowest. Second, quickest for us. So really for me, I'm just going to keep consistent. Obviously, like last year when I was in the cab, yeah, RLCS kind of crashed over 2 laps, but if I can get past 2 laps, then calm the nerves a bit, and then just going to stay consistent at times, and just get like 3 hours step out of the way, and then give it over to his cab. So we're going to do a Pro Series race along with Oscar. So he's going not going to do well.
So, before they can go too much,
Really getting top 10 for now. sponsor-wise, shout out to JCS sponsors, and also new sponsors of the driver services, and then you got the normal stuff. Obviously, SimSteer, Bench Racing TV as well. All the other guys racing as well. And also Twitch stream, which is not running, so all footage on there. So yeah, that's all. And you guys as well.
12 heading themselves to the outside. NASCAR 22 hours. We will step aside, move back.
streets, the racing was fun, but there was always a certain level of chaos and confusion until some folks came along and put some order to it. Stuff like official race rules, regulations about weight and equipment, that's what gave us Sure, they've got the most accurate tracks and realistic cars out there, but that's just the start. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight, and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all are kept in the pits. Not to mention, that with over 45,000 active members already in their fast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in on the action. You can even join the league of your favorite series. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software. It can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. 1 hour and 30 minutes almost complete here of the second annual 24 Hours at Daytona here on Racing TV, streaming live also on iRacing Live. After road racing, the green flag for that race will come out in 10 minutes' time. And what is a quintuple header here on Racing TV? It's Pro Series, Neo, and also the Skip Bar UK World Cup all this weekend. And well, Oscar, even saying working to
Probably. Yeah,
who knows what to do? We got 5 races, right? You know,
look at all the things we're doing.
wow! You can see a black screen there for no reason why. So some of these drives are side by side as they battle out to get themselves down in towards turn number 10 and 11 once again. There you can see Shane Van Gisbergen's car. It's not actually, it's still got Shane Van Gisbergen behind the wheel of it there. And then this 97 machine. Well, it's a pretty great point count to talk about the fair share of iRacing.
Yes, the fair share rules here in endurance racing overall. It's one of those things, you gotta have at the very minimum 2 drivers for an endurance race. Obviously, this makes sense here. We do have some people, though, Will, that are trying to do a 24-hour race by themselves. It's not the first time we've had this happen, but oh goodness, sometimes they finish better than but either way, the fair share rules. A fair share is it's 25%, 1/4 of an equal share. So say you did 75 laps and you had 3 drivers. The fair share would be 7 laps, or that's 1/4 of 75. So it's one of those things where overall people have to pull your weights there. Otherwise, you would just not be able to split up the times. It's one of those things where I don't think we will see issues in this event, as I think they'll change out probably every second pit stop, perhaps every third pit stop for a driver. Especially when you do tires. You can do a driver change, tires and fuel all in the same window. Whereas if you're just fueling, training the driver might take a little too long. But overall, though, I don't think we were going to see any issues with getting fair share. But you never know.
Well, you say that, but Oscar, you and I remember back at the Racing TV 24 Hours at Daytona, some teams can get math wrong. Like Racing did it back when we did the 24 Hours, and it can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a bit strange, and there are rules, and the timing of the fuel or the pit stops doesn't necessarily fall quite right for the amount of time you want to put a driver in a car. And I don't think it's so much that people miscalculate, it's that they maybe overstep what they wanted to do, and it can just all you a complete world and then you're screwed. So again, it's always strange with endurance racing. You need to go as fast as possible for as long as possible whilst being conservative all the time. Which is, it's a balance that just doesn't exist, but you've got to pull it off. And, it's the difficulty that the balance even with doing endurance racing.
It is indeed. iRacing's H Endurance C17 with Antia Hap Jr. And he's got himself just behind him. These guys, let's not forget, they're going to be on pit road in the next lap or 3. The real side up. CBK Light, CP. Very slowly onto the pit road. That is Neil Askow. Oh, in the CBLight.com. Team A car. This is almost as if I planned that one out there, Brenton.
Yeah, there's a lot of cars who are trying to get off schedule here. Like we said with the first pit stop, such a hectic pit stop, wasn't it? And then we saw some cars short fueling just to get that clear air, and they want to keep that clear air for the rest of the race. They're not going to get that, obviously, with such a tight, compact field. But our race leader, Oligo, the Vortex Sim Racing 1, also in the pits. This is lap 57. Sure, he's going to be doing a change yet. I would imagine at a minimum about 57 they'll be taking new tyres there, so watch out for him on the exit with cold tyres.
This is Anderson in towards the pit road. Look how close that one was with TBK light car there. And well, we talk about sim racing there, and Cam, that was very, very close to the TBK light car.
It absolutely was. Well, it is completely a game of inches. But you know what? He got the car in the pits. He's on his way. Jordan Jens is now in the driver's seat of that car as the race was started by Marcus Lenderman. So first driver change for the VRS Coanda SimSport car. They come out ahead of Core Motorsports.
Oh my God, Jordan Jens is off!
Well, they went off, and he'll gather it back up. That could have been a heck of a lot worse, especially if there was traffic. Welcome to the iRacing Daytona 24 Hours, Jordan, as he'll gather the prototype car back up. And the rear is skipping away. He might have to reset. I'm sure these guys, Coanda, they're some of the best of the best, but you never know. Sometimes he might have forgotten to reset the brake bias or any of the in-car adjustments that are on that C7 prototype car. But either way, Coanda's car is away with the with a different driver. As I'm sure driver swaps will be coming probably this pit stop. If not this, definitely the next.
It seems as though he pulled the white line into the pit road, and that's been to the left. And Oscar, can you imagine being a Coanda SimSport driver, being the to win in most people's opinion the race here today, and all of a sudden, it's out of the event.
Remember that bit that I said about pit entry and exit being crucial in this event? that was the prime example. That was almost getting it horribly wrong. And there's some people in the chat asking maybe that Jordan might have gotten a driver in. I think he kept it on the should be alright. But you know, it's so easy to do. The pit entry and exit, it's one of those things that you've just not got the same experience as you do with the actual track. It looks as though Jordan Jens is actually really struggling with that car at the moment. You don't normally see that many mistakes coming from a Coanda car, but this thing's barely pointing in a straight line in the braking zone.
Yeah, as we can actually see now coming out of pit road is the Victorious Racing car. By about 6-7 seconds. But here's 6 racing. Now, I'm trying to do the math here. 1.5 seconds behind the iRacing Johnson car. That is always enough that you lose a draft.
No, I'm thinking 2 seconds. I was actually just talking about that exact thing. About 2 seconds in these things is you're just on the edge of it. 1.6, you're certainly well and truly in it. You know, it's hard to be critical of you on because I was just saying right from the outset, these things are a complete nightmare on the outlap on cold tyres, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was Coanda's first stop and first change of tyres. As I said, pitting lap 57. But, you know, once these tyres are up and going, this car will take off. There's nothing to worry about with Coanda at the moment. It's still a long way to go. 34 seconds down, although the leader pitting now, so there's time to be made up there. But it would have been a nervous moment for sure.
As the gap is currently 1.8 seconds as they head into the first start. 1.9 seconds or so. I always have to say that I'm going to take more wing than most other teams do, and that can be an important factor. Have the ability to pass the car in a straight line, but their wing normally means that they have the ability to be consistent. As Ron Littlemore now gets behind the wheel of the Apex Racing UK Choke AC car.
Well, yes, of course. The setups are so very important. Every racing team here has brought a different setup to the race, and both the GT cars and the prototype, as we see Jordan Jens getting a little stuck in some traffic here. I was about to say, well, this is where his car is going to make the best of it, as Alexander Bosch and that Core Motorsports car is going to be able to clear that, actually push the Pure Racing Team 112 car piloted by Jonas Wallmeyer. They don't push him out of the way literally, but figuratively they do, as Jordan Jens will be able to pull away. But yes, that Coanda car, let's see if we can get maybe some help. Let's see see the speeds here. The Core Motorsports car is already hitting 185, and the John Jens is hitting 180. Now, of course, the Core Motorsports car had the draft going through, so they're obviously going to be faster. But yes, this car I don't think is extremely slippery. I think, though, overall, it's probably a more overall package. It's one of those packages where I think it would do very well getting around GT traffic in the inner loop and getting onto the power. So we'll pass the Shark Motorsports car as well, the car will have to switch to the outside. But yeah, that Shark Motorsports car is still rolling good as well. They're in position 28 overall as they'll get lapped one more time here as they go into the turn one session here, this little hairpin, and they'll have to get around the Movano Racing car, which they should do on the inside. This is where the Commander car should have the effect, Will, of having that higher wing.
Yes, indeed. So the first sector of this event, it is called Turn 1 from Turn number 7. The reason why is because they turn
Sean, why do you dive bomb in a 24-hour race?
This infield section is a very, very tough course. Yes, it may be 200 and then 835 degrees corner, but it's that run from the International Horseshoe down to the second hairpin that really challenges drivers.
Yeah, it is, and sorry, I just got back. There's advantages here, though, and that's what we're talking about with the wing settings with the C7 is between 6 and 7. It does make a bit of a difference. You do lose, we're working out, you lose about 0.2 of a second on the straight sections, but you pick up probably 2.5 second points, tenths of a second in the tight section, so it's what you lose and what you gain. But you know, these cars are still reasonably new, I guess. But the technicality of the track on that infield in comparison to the technicality of the car itself, it's just a great match. The cars are really suited well here.
So here is the Vortex. So Gecko Vortex Racing has to take number 1 car. Jill Ligo leading the way right now, and the number 10 machine as he continues to push through himself. The driver of Antia Pap Jr. is on 12 seconds track. And well, Benson, that's one thing. It seems as though, yeah, it's only 11 seconds, but any racing driver, 11 seconds seems to be important.
It's daylight, isn't it? That 11 seconds is, we're only talking early stages till 22 hours and 20 minutes to go of a race. But that 11 seconds that you're getting now, it could, before you're not turning 22 seconds, 33 seconds, and then you're away, aren't you? A lot of work to do here. There's going to be a lot of incidents between now and the finish line. Like here in Australia at the moment, a lot of our guys are racing at 2:15 in the morning. For the guys in Europe that are racing here now, the guys in America, that's all still before them. The fatigue does set in. It's actually quite real, and you've got to break through that little barrier. Get yourself teamed up, get yourself talking, and there's going to be times at stupid o'clock in the morning where you might be just sitting there by yourself driving, have a bit of a nod here, or you lose a bit of concentration there, and there's an awful big wall coming at you at high speed.
I tell you what, even us commentators like to get that over the course of the next 25 hours. We'll be with you for at least 15 hours of race events here on Racing TV. Streaming live also on iRacing and Instagram. Then we're back with you in the morning. Don't forget also myself the Endurance Series, and also the Gallagher Endurance Series if you're after the Pro Series Road Racing. But guess what? It is live right now here on Racing TV, streaming live on iRacing Live. Head over to iRacing.com/live if you're after the iRacing.com Pro Series Road Racing. Join Simone, Rachel Whitewood, Hugo Louise there with the call as we are in the midst of crowning a new champion and a new set of drivers here, Brenton. Who will be joining the iRacing.com World Championship competition.
Yeah, looking forward to that. A bit of a shout out to Riley Preston, the Aussie entrant. He's qualified with one race to go, and quite a few of the Apex guys there, Orion guys there as well. So it's going to spice up a bit of competition. The hot guys will always be hot, we know that, but it's always good to see the new fellas enter into what is going to be a fantastic 2016, not just for the Formula One guys, but like I said, with the blonde paint endurance as well, the Road Warrior series again just seems to pick up time and time again. The fantastic Indy 500 coming up. Make sure you keep your eyes open for that, and just the implementation of what iRacing Live has been able to do. There's so many coverage, so many races covered live now. It's fantastic. So look forward to plenty of good racing on iRacing here with Racesport.
Yeah, indeed. So don't forget, we'll be with you every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
So we'll go through some results as it stands at the moment. The Vortex Sim Racing. This is the car number 10. After an hour and 3/4 of racing, he's got himself 11.5 seconds instead of in front of the iRacing Hungary Endurance C7 race team, and Coanda Sim Sport 15 seconds flat with Ewan Jens. We saw what happened to him on the exit of the pits on lap 57. Core Motorsports, an early lead of the race. These guys are battling neck and neck, 15.5 seconds down. Glacier Racing Petronas, who showed their nose to be quite handy early doors, was up as high as third place at one stage. Down now 32 seconds, so they've actually dropped back quite convincingly at the moment. So whether it's a driver change there, and that's the thing, it's how deep each team goes. We know that the teams like Vortex and Coanda go deep, Core go deep, Glacier go deep. So extended field through there with actually 21 runners in the C7s, and I'm going to throw over to you, Ken, if that's okay. Tell us a bit about the GT3. There's some good racing happening there with Pure Racing Team, the 111 car out in front.
Yes, that Pure Racing team with Patrick Pitchler. Pitchler has been the driver all race long, but some others is he has the Coanda car hugging right behind him with the Core Motorsports right behind him as well. And that Core Motorsports car will pick up a little draft off of him, see if he can't close up on the Coanda car at all. But yes, Patrick Pitchler and that Pure Racing team, he's been running a good race. He started in third in the GT class, and he's pursued by a relatively healthy gap, I might say, by Shane Van Gisbergen and PJ Sturgios, who are now fighting for position. They are actually following each other right into turn number 1. They're neck and neck. It's the roof versus the McLaren. It's Shane Van Gisbergen has been inside that roof all race long here as well. All race now 25 minutes, nothing for him. But PJ Sturgios is in second with Net INX Racing with Stefan Mojajar in the Virgil Racing car. Shark Motorsport with Sergio Rota Jr. in the fifth position with the Thrustmaster Mavano, who led early here at the Daytona 24 with Mario Bertolotti. He is back down into sixth. The other Pure Racing team, the 112 car with Jonas Wallmeyer, is in Moonshine Nation car. That's a Phoenix slash they are. That's Inti Bajala and it's Chenoweth's crew. That's all rolled into Phoenix, anyways. Yeah, it's all rolled into Phoenix now. But I'm trying to think of what the name used to be before the merge. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But either way, this is the Moonshine car. Somebody's been off. Oh, that's a prototype car. He's having a little bit of an off. It's the Untamed 24-hour car, and I think he might have touched the tire barrier.
Yeah, that is the number 3 machine there of Johan John. We saw that smoke from Anthony John's machine as he came down into the second hairpin of the day. We're going to get ourselves a replay of that up. And well, looking through the incident, because that was
Well, it was. I think what had happened was that Untamed car, the Untamed 24-hour car, started entering into the hairpin. He was in traffic. They're all, usually he was getting lapped by the Apex Racing, which was the Motorsports car. They were going too wide into the second hairpin, and he lost the rear end, and that caused the Apex Racing UK car to go off the track, but not as bad as that Untamed car. And I have to say now, pulling away that Untamed car, I don't think is really any worse for wear. The tire barriers did their job.
He hit it side on. That was the issue. He hit it side on. Well, Oscar, if you're gonna smack yourself into a tire wheel, you never do it front on because that will hurt your engine. You never want to hit it from the rear. But you hit it side on, in some cases it will be okay.
That's just the best way to hit a tire barrier. It's either not at all or really slightly.
Yes.
suit the C7 to the engines in the back, so hitting it with the nose isn't as bad. But if you're in a front engine car, you can hit it in front, and so on and so forth. The only issue with hitting it with the side in the C7s is they've got really delicate suspension. Like, you'll get a meatball flag for just looking near the wheels and pulling them in the wrong direction. So, yeah, it's not. There isn't really a right way to hit a wall, only to say don't. Unfortunately, for MK24. But it looks like they've not got a meatball, which they've driven past the pits, and they're continuing on that one.
Well, there we are, 22 hours, 10 minutes. Can you imagine? Only almost 2 hours into this count.
Yeah, it's beer only, just about 2 hours. That's perfectly fine. Either way, 2 hours in, 22 to go. Where has the time gone? It doesn't seem like there's been much to it. Oh, we might have had a bigger issue. Philip Schellenberg in the 24th MSP driver's home car, McLaren in the GT class, that is missing the entire front, the hood of the car and the entire front bumper. I don't know. Oh, this must have happened a few laps ago. He's well back in the field. That car is just about mid-pack, 32nd overall. I'll try and figure out what has happened there. But overall, Oscar, I think for the most part we've had a relatively clean race, all things considered. And actually, I think that might have just been a little blip on my screen. The car does look fine. I just saw that it was a little blip on my screen. I thought it was actually something. No, not at all. It was just a sort of that. Either way, there is a battle at the very least between the IRJA Class 6 Racing the Roof and a BMW. Cars that we don't normally see here, but either way, Oscar, this GT field, rather dominated by the McLarens, but we do still have some other cars.
Yeah, you know, you would look at it and go, the McLaren's the quickest of the cars, and it probably is over a lap and over a stint. That doesn't stop people from being able to extract the optimal performance from the other GTs. I mean, iRacing have spent, the GT3s have been around a long time, and iRacing have spent a lot of that time doing their best to balance them. You know, someone who's been involved with the balancing of mods outside of iRacing stuff, that balancing is one of the hardest things to get them correctly. And so you're going to get to events and there's going to be more competitive cars. I mean, I've heard a few of you earlier talking about McLaren being slower and then it got to Monza and beat everything. It's one of those things, it's an ebb and flow, and it's kind of how balanced performance works. It's lovely, however, to be able to see a few of the other cars. Shame that there's no Ford GT representation in this one. I guess we can explain the fact that Glacier is driving the C7 for that fact, because I'm sure if they're in the GT class, they'll be supporting the Ford GT GT3. But it's nice to see. Shame that it's mostly McLarens, but you have to understand why in such a competitive event.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where these cars, they balance them out just about every 12 weeks. There's a different balance of performance package. Sometimes it's not radically different. They'll add 5 kilograms here, a little less here, a little more. It's nothing immense. I don't think I've seen any huge balance of performance shifts. It's just sometimes you can go to a track and look at it, and when you've got a stable of cars to select from, it's not like the Blank Pane GT Series where what car is selected at the start of the World Championship Series, that is the car that they will bring for the entire series. Here, they can pick and choose, and I think as to build on what you said, Oscar, some of these prototype cars we've seen, which is just a massive field of prototypes, by the way. It's 21 right now. It's just one of those things where I think a lot of those drivers are in the prototype car, which if I had to choose, I would almost prefer them to be in the prototype cars, just because we don't really get to see prototype battles like this, and I think we're going to get a healthy amount of GT class fighting in
Absolutely, and a series that I'm looking forward to. Hopefully doing a bit of work on the commentary with. And
does that imply that you were doing commentaries?
Is that imply I might be?
I know,
I
right?
don't know. I'm waiting for you or Hugo to definitely tell me that's what's happening, and then I'll be excited by it properly. Until then, I'm just going to drop hints until you give it to me. It's just the plan.
Well, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, that not only will the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series be on race for TV, but also the Blanc Pane GT World Championship Series, and also NASCAR Big Anything Series lives here on Racewatch TV. As yeah, we basically have ourselves a huge more about intricacies later on. Shane Van G still is about 4 seconds behind Peter, but I'm not really thinking about it right now. I'm thinking about what will happen when these guys do the driver change.
It's an interesting one. It's tricky to call. We don't necessarily know the pace of the drivers. I mean, we could certainly, by reading previous results, know they'll probably be quick, but it's hard to say, and it's hard to say if after Benjamin gets out of the car, if his teammates will be able to continue with the performance that he has put on to this stage. Because obviously to this point he has, I won't say shown up, because that's up to date. You've still got Shane Van Gisbergen and PJ Stern just battling very close behind, and actually they're placing like Stefan Niesela in third generation. So it's not like he's run off with it, but he's put such a strong stick that you've got to question whether or not his teammates are going to be able to match this level of performance that he's shown us. I mean,
well, let me help you there. We can clear that Christian Harwood is teammate experience in iRacing. He will be quick. Justin Rougier, very good at multi-type car racing, including, I think he's done quite a few laps of practice this week. He will be quick. The biggest problem with Justin Rougier we're going to have is I don't think his connection's real good. His thing's all over the shop. I think he's dropped out a couple of times already. Lee Holdsworth drives V8 supercars in real life. Amazingly, I think he will be the big win here, because I'm not sure how much time Lee's had behind the wheel here at the C7. So this is going to be a competitive team. It's with the fair driving changes that we have, etc. You would imagine that Shane will probably do the greater majority of the work, should he be up to it. Well, we don't know what he's doing all day tomorrow on Sunday, but I can assure that Aylward and Rougier will certainly be up to that task. But like I said, with Rougier's it's red numbers all over the place. 666, that's not a great omen for him. But they'll keep plugging away, and no doubt that's a problem that they'll look into and try and work their way around.
We'll talk about more about that in a moment's time. Let's first of all ride a lap on board of Patrick Bleacher in the Treble 1 machine. This is the pure racing team car. We're going to do a lap on board with him. Last time by 145.000. In towards turn 1 he comes. So Cam, out of the first chicane, in towards the International Horseshoe, PRT in towards that right-hander. International Horseshoe is a horrific corner.
You keep saying these corners are awful. Perhaps it's just as an American, I am so used to driving on these ovals, these road/oval courses. To me, these corners aren't that bad. I would actually say the second hairpin's trickier, because you have a much worse exit. Patrick Pitchler is still in that as he's getting pursued. That's the Hellenic Racing car that is actually getting lapped. And Tony Rupsard. And if you're not familiar with Tony Rupsard, he's one of the legends in the Star Mazda. It's a open wheel formula car. So when I was starting back in 2002.